Welcome to the Teacher's Toolkit for Literacy, the free podcast for motivated teachers and school leaders who want to inspire their students and school community in literacy learning. Make sure you subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast player, and for more amazing literacy resources, check out the show notes provided with every episode.
Hi, I'm Sharon, and I'm the host of a Teacher's Toolkit for Literacy. In every Toolkit episode, we bring you specific resources, tools, strategies, tips, techniques to help you in your job as a teacher of literacy. Firstly, we acknowledge and pay our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present, and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. Hello, everybody.
And welcome everyone to the podcast. In every Toolkit episode, we bring you specific resources, tools. I won't say Pacific like Kath and Kim do, but specific resources, tools, strategies, tips, techniques to help you in your job as a teacher of literacy, and lots of other things, I'm sure. It's all about helping you as a professional make those choices that are going to affect you in your classroom for the betterment of your students. Great to hear what teachers are doing on our Teachers Toolkit Facebook page as well. And we sometimes try to answer some of the questions, which is really interesting. So thank you for contributing, those people who have contributed so far, and we look forward to anybody else who would like to contribute to that group. Fantastic. Yes.
Sorry, could I just add in there?
Yeah.
Because I know how we are all so busy. You know, we're in classrooms every day, and and we need our own downtime, and we all need to take care of ourselves. And so, there's many times like we're sitting here and we are so hoping, that there are, that we can bring some layers to that well-being for teachers too.
Great point, Sharon. Yep.
And I really love when, because for a lot of the people or for a lot of listeners, we don't know you. And I absolutely love it. It just does something extraordinary for us when someone that we don't know messages us to say, thank you for that episode, or here's something that I did. And I just want people to know that how grateful we are for that too. Not that we're expecting that, but, we understand how much feedback is appreciated, and you as teachers don't always get very much in the way of feedback either. So,
it's a hard gig teaching, and we are just trying to give you as much as we can. We get so much joy out of doing this that we can give you some ideas on the podcast. We've got some resources on the Teachific site that can back up that work. We've got the blogs. So we're trying to work in a range of ways that's going to really help you in this hard gig as a teacher.
Yeah. But
can be a really enjoyable gig.
Yes. Yeah. Every day I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, my part of my work, I work here with in literacy with Sharon, but I also have a small job teaching music in a school. So I'm really doing some hands-on work, teaching receptions through to year 7 this year. Just love teaching music, and the kids really find that an enjoyable thing too, which is great. But there's so much literacy in that too. We're often singing, or the first thing we do is sing a range of songs together, and we look at those same songs each week. So the kids, even in reception, they're all some of the words they can read, some they can't, but they're...
So when you say you look at those songs, that's because you have...
I have them in a big book. Yes, I've got a big book where I've printed out the songs in enlarged text, and the reason I love that big book is that we can go back to it really easily. We don't have to. Well, I could do it of course I could do it on a big screen, and I have got a big screen there too, and sometimes I do that, but I also have this big book where we go back to these songs, and it's quite comforting to be in this small group in front of the big book, and we all look at it together and we're singing these songs. I get the kids to come up and do actions to the songs as well. We're doing Home Amongst the Gum Trees at the moment, and always get a few kids to come up and demo what sort of actions they would do with that song, and they love doing it. Everybody wants to come up and do the actions.
Yeah, well, and number one would be you up there doing the actions.
Yeah.
You're not afraid of demonstrating.
No, I like a bit of drama.
You love to demonstrate those things.
Anyway, actions, drama, music, and then literacy together, and the kids love it. So, and I love it. So, But I also loved classroom teaching, and I loved bringing art and music into literacy in classroom teaching as well.
Yeah. Important part, creativity for that, and ways of expressing our thinking are really critical.
Now, we've talked a bit about, the podcast and why we're doing them, and we love doing that. But let's go on with Sharon, what you've been doing recently.
Oh, wow. That's caught me on the hop.
I threw you in it because actually I was the person
under the bus.
Oh, I see. My bit about the music was that bit. Yeah, so we'll skip that question. Maybe.
Well, no, I mean.
All right.
Oh, sorry,
okay.
that is funny. Well, actually, let me just share, because there's the week hasn't been without some new things. At this time of year, we're new into the school year, and for me, in this past week, one of the now that you've got me started, but two great joys. One, working with an entirely new school that I haven't worked with before, and that means getting to work with the team at that school, the leadership team, and 4 amazing teachers and their students. So I love nothing more than being part of all of those elements, of being part of the bigger picture around the literacy learning and how to support the literacy of students in that school, to grow that, as well as supporting teachers, as well as supporting students, and being part of all of the layers of that. So being in classrooms and working with everybody in different ways, having some one-on-one time with teachers. So it's a great model of learning when it can be done in all of those different settings. So, and as well as doing it together. So as a community doing that. So that has been, I feel so privileged being able to be part of another community and their learning journey, I suppose, for want of a better word. And then, of course, I've had the chance this last week to work with a school I've been working with for many years. And once again, where we've gone in the journey and where we keep going, again, just completely fascinates and excites and thrills me about what teachers are doing and what they share, what they've discovered. And as we know, we've got teachers from there who come and share on the podcast. There's
Giselle came from that school.
Such mighty work that they're doing by keeping that focus.
There's so many
on literacy.
So many great teachers,
yes.
aren't there?
Yep.
Going on to our topic for today, which is reading like a writer. What was your struggle in this, Sharon?
All right. So first of all, I will just step one bit back. This reading like a writer is a term by that was first used by, we attribute it to Frank Smith, a Canadian.
Could have been others, but we'll say Frank.
But he has certainly in his book titled Reading and his other book titled Joining the Literacy Club, he talks about the importance of students reading like a writer. And I've used that term for today's topic or today's podcast because for me, the struggle, it was how do I teach the craft elements of writing? Because I could hear myself saying, my writers really need to craft better beginnings or better endings or better sentences or better blah, 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 anything. I knew it could be better, but I didn't know what to do
to make those happen.
To make that happen. And the kids themselves, we could all identify that we wanted to do that better, but how could we get better? What was the thing to do to get better at that? So what reading like a writer, and we'll explore that today, but what it really helped was to teach students, if I could teach them to intentionally read like a writer, it could absolutely improve their writing. So,
and this was something you read about?
Yeah, so yep. Frank Smith yep. is the one whose work I read, and I heard a few people talking about it. One of those people would have been Aidan Chambers, and I can't remember who else, but I know at conferences I would have, I heard more of this notion of reading like a writer, and that immediately made sense to me because, as Frank Smith said, we learn from the company we keep. So if we can be in the company of writers, so through great text, through great literature, surely we can learn what to do with that. So today I want to explore a process that I've used to, well, I suppose that's been built from the reading and the trying out in classrooms, a process then of how we can go about intentionally reading like a writer, not all the time, not every time we're reading, but how we intentionally choose to read like a writer at times to learn and understand what the writer's doing there and with what effect. So that's what we're going to go exploring today. And this little process is really transferable to lots of crafting elements, but I'm going to embed it just in one today because, and that's looking at how writers begin. So the beginnings of crafting the beginning of a story. And then
later we'll do other aspects.
And then other podcasts will, if people find this useful,
all right.
Then we can explore.
Yeah, I'll go with that, Sharon.
Thank you. Thankfully, because we're actually going to, we'll go through the steps today and you'll join in with that. You'll be part of that. Yeah, I know.
I've got work to do. Oh, my God.
I thought you meant you had other work to do at your desk.
Oh, no. No, I was going to go and have a coffee, but you want me to do some work? Oh, my goodness. All right. Now we're getting funny. This is good. Sorry it's taken us all these podcasts to start to become funny. But anyway.
What was funny?
Oh, what was funny, yeah. Right. Okay. Where are we? We've done what we mean.
So today we'll look at, so what do we mean by reading like a writer? And then how can reading like a writer, how can that work?
Okay.
And we always will link it to the fact that this is about developing the three selves. For students, it's a process to help them be self-motivated, self-directed and self-regulated. because this is what we're always after. This is if we're not getting, if we can't end up with them being more of these things, then that's what I always had to question myself about was, okay, I've done all of this, but now they're still not doing any of that. What processes, what things can I be doing to help them become those things?
All right. So
motivated, regulated, directed.
okay. So where do we start here?
Where do we start? All right.
Yeah.
So reading like a writer. Actually, I've said a whole lot about that already. Frank Smith talking about. So what it means to read like a writer is to really be looking at texts and to decide what's the writer doing here. So I said today we'll look at crafting beginnings. So, we're on to kids and they'll say, okay, I've started my story. And then we look at it and go, oh, well, did it really capture me? And sometimes we can talk about, does it hook the reader in, and has it got a good start? And we can say all these things, but what does that mean? Okay. So what we're going to do is, you don't have this in front of you because you're listening to this, but Phil and I both have in front of us, and if I was doing this with a class, I would have these on display as well. But so writers generally talk about, well, there are categories of the types of beginnings that you can use. The most common one we probably ever talk about is, that the beginning must say who, where, when, what, and why. But writers talk about it in this way. They say that and these aren't exclusive categories. And this is the nice thing. We can share these categories with our students and also say, but there may be others, because we're going to be exploring this. So the 7 categories. Number 1, start by making the reader wonder. Number 2, start by asking a question.
Right.
Number 3, start with someone talking. Number 4, start with a punch. Number 5, start with a fact. Number 6, start with an opinion. Number 7, strange one here, but amazing how many times this comes up, start with the weather. The weather's all about mood and all about, creating the atmosphere for something. So what we're going to do now, or what I've actually started doing, is the first part of the process, and that's called name and notice. So what we've just done is named 7 beginnings 7 ways to begin. And this isn't just for stories, although today I'm just going to use fiction texts for us to do this with. But a beginning it might be a letter, it might be a persuasive piece, it might be, we're not saying this just fits in imaginative text. This could be in any kinds of text.
So I'm sensing this is a bit of gold, Sharon, to have this name and notice strategy.
Yes.
And then you've got these other steps, but we won't come to those yet.
No, because right now, so if I bring this to children and say, okay, there's 7 categories, right? 7 ways we can begin. And of course I could have got them to brainstorm that, but I'm actually naming some categories that we've got. But the next part that we're going to do right now is we're going to notice. So I've just picked a bundle of books off the shelf here, and I'm just going to read the beginning. In fact, I'm only going to read the first sentence. And we're going to categorise them. So we're going to notice which one and name which category we think it fits into.
That's the work I've got to do.
That's the work you have to do.
Right.
All right. So the first one comes from The Girl Who Soared Over Fairyland and Cut the Moon in Two. I love that as a title. All right. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, a girl named September told a great number of lies.
Or it could be reader wonder.
So Phil's saying, so it might be making the reader wonder.
You want to just read it again?
Once upon a time, a girl named September told a great number of lies.
It could be a fact.
It could be a fact.
Or it could be an opinion.
Or it may be an opinion. So already we know that is it going to fit neatly into one only category, but already it's making us think further than did it tell us who, when, where, what, why.
And I like the way you've just picked up a book and, it's not necessarily going to try and find a mentor text or whatever.
No.
It's just finding a book.
Yes.
And just see what the beginning sentence is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where do you think you might want to put it? Just make a call on it. Do you want to put it? You said the first one was make the reader wonder. Why did it make you wonder?
Yeah, it made me wonder, well, is it fact or opinion? I suppose. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you don't know whether it's fact or an opinion.
So I'll put that in
it's really making you wonder.
It's in the wonder basket.
Excellent. All right. Second one. This comes from the Grand Genius Summer of Henry Hubler. First chapter. Leaving. First sentence. And this sentence is the entire first paragraph.
Okay.
It was nearly time to go.
That's it?
That's it.
Could be a fact. Well, it's starting with a bit of a punch, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit punchy, isn't it? So we can see that it doesn't have to fall neatly. It's exclusively this or exclusively that. But we can see what this is doing to us as a reader.
And I'm loving finding it from different books. I mean, let's try another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an interesting one. So from Edgar and Ellen's Pet's Revenge, Chapter 1. Swish, 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 swish.
Beautiful. Could be the weather. A funny wind. Could be.
And once again, that line.
Also a punch.
One sentence, first paragraph. That's it.
That was it. Yeah, love it.
How glorious is that?
We need another one.
Okay. Oh, do you know what? That from Inkheart, A Stranger in the Night, Chapter 1. Rain fell that night, a fine whispering rain.
Weather.
Yeah. And the mood, straight away, we get it, don't we?
Yeah.
Rain fell that night, a fine whispering rain.
Fantastic.
From Chris Van Allsburg, The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. A tiny voice asked, "Is he the one?"
And we must add that there's a beautiful illustration.
Yeah, but don't worry about that.
Right, okay.
Just
I'd say wonder for that one. Making me wonder.
Check down your list. It certainly does. But it is also an example of starting by asking a question.
Oh, yes. Yes. Of course.
So lovely technique.
Yeah.
It can still be a wondering. We're certainly wondering.
And a question.
But just the fact that we turn the wondering into a question lets us. So what we've done here is really, just one more, because here we are starting with something different. Now remember, Mother said, your father and I are bringing some guests by after the opera, so please keep the house neat. That happens to be the first line from Jumanji. And that one fits into, we would say, start with someone talking.
Yep.
So we've had a question. We've started with a question. We've had one started with someone talking. We've had one start with a punch. Now, I've just pulled these off the shelf. I haven't gone hunting.
And you've found most of them.
So what I would then do is, if I was doing this with a class, the name and notice part, I would have the categories up and I would read the lines and I'd get them to notice. And we would sort them into those categories. So I've just done that name and notice part.
So you'd write them up?
I could write them up, or I could, with older students, I might pass some paper out and get them to write them as we're going, and then we can put them up as an example.
Yep.
However, the next thing I'm going to ask them to do is to go back to have a look through their books that they're reading at the moment, or through the library, and go and look for some more. So go and explore.
Is that the next section?
Well, exploration is really part of the naming and noticing, but we want to go. We really want to go exploring, and what's more, I want to go collecting. So in a writer's notebook, I could have these categories now.
Yeah.
And I can have a page of beginnings, double page maybe, beginnings. I can have the categories, and I can find some examples of those. So I'm learning how they work. I'm learning what they can look like. So now what I have, and we often talk about this, is that literacy is about choosing and using. So now when I come to write, I've now got some choice. I can think, I'm going to begin this story. How am I going to begin? I've got some new crafting techniques for crafting a beginning.
And that's in your writer's notebook. So you've got a whole...
Yeah, I've got a resource. The teacher hasn't made it. Students have, through naming and noticing, and their noticing and exploration, they've now got a collection. So they've gone through a collecting process, and they've been reading like a writer. So they're looking at what the writer is doing. So that exploration and collecting is part of the reading like a writer process. So this can happen in a writing workshop, not reading workshop. This is a writing workshop. This is to improve my writing, to build my knowledge of the craft and the things that I can choose from.
Yep, I get it.
Oh, sorry.
I'm understanding, Sharon. I'm understanding.
Clearly you must have given me some indication that you weren't, that I went on for so long. I'm sorry, everybody. I think I've just repeated myself 17 times.
No.
Sorry.
Okay.
Good. So now we don't want to just leave it there, because the next part of the process is to give it a go. And to give it a go, the thing is, when we're writing and we get children to write, sometimes the beginnings, we write a beginning and then I'm sticking with the beginning because I've written this piece now and I've had a go at it, and nope, that's as good as it's going to get. So this coming back to improve it is really hard. Now, I'm not saying not to come back and improve, but I am saying let our kids have a go now. So just give it a go of writing some beginnings.
And that's where Quick Write comes in.
And that's where our Quick Write is a great tool for giving some things a go.
There's not one big piece of writing you want them to go away and do. It's something quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we can get them, we could either, and Penny has done this amazingly, Year 4-5 teacher has done this amazingly with her students over the years of choosing, like she might give a prompt or a word and say, you've got 2 minutes to write. How are you going to begin? Sometimes she'll say, try beginning with a question. Sometimes she might say, give a particular one of these in the category, give it a go. Same word, now try the beginning, another Quick Write, try with beginning with the weather.
I can see this would be great for kids who have found writing a bit of a struggle.
It gives them an immediate entry point.
Entry point, yeah.
So, and even our writers who are, our thriving writers, they've got somewhere to go with it. There is no ceiling on this.
Yep.
There is no ceiling, because what you write, where you start, and you're writing like a writer now because you've been reading like a writer. You're writing in ways like we've seen from, and I saw from my own students' writing, it elevates their writing to a different level because they are really writing like a writer.
I love the way they've got time to give it a go.
Yes.
It's really important, isn't it?
Yes. And so in a quick write book, we could label a page in there or a few pages, beginnings, and these practice ones that we do, these little quick writes that we do with that, and we might do 2 or 3 quick writes on one day, and that's taken 10 minutes, and that might be like the little warm-up, part of the mini lesson and warm-up for writing that day.
And you'd share some of these writings?
Absolutely share, and I'll talk a little bit about the share. But we'd label the page. Now we've got a resource in their quick write book as well of things. Now, all these beginnings they've written, they're possible beginnings that might be used at some point.
Of a major piece of work they're going to do.
Or it will be, that I can reflect on those and go, wow, I love being able to start a story in this way, and I've never done that before. So I'm going to choose, when I come to doing something else, now I've got some things to choose from. I'm not just stuck with one way of doing it. It's opened up all these doors for me. So when it comes to, after the quick write, it's a really nice time to reflect, or after the quick writes, and for students to actually think about the effectiveness of that beginning that they wrote. Did they think it worked well? So to reflect on it is now really empowering them as the writer, because they've got some time to make that choice and think about its effectiveness, rather than when I'm editing one whole big piece and now I've got to think about, did that beginning work? And it's too much to think about. But when I can just think about that part, I can really reflect on it effectively. We can also get students to share with each other, and they can. So if you and I were sharing, Phil, you could tell me as a reader what it was like to read my beginning.
Okay.
So then you're reading my writing, reading like a writer.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm
getting
feedback about that.
Yeah.
So because because we've been exploring the same things.
Yep.
So that little process, name and notice, and then we can explore some more of that. So some exploration of that is nice. Give it a go in the quick write, and then if I've got a collection of those, now I've got somewhere, now I've done it a few times, now I can choose and use.
Actually,
and then this reflection and celebration. Really, it's not just a reflection, it's a celebration of, this is what I was trying to do as a writer.
Yeah.
So I started this way because this is what I was trying to do. So I'm in charge. So here's where those 3 selves come in. It's very self-motivating.
Yeah.
It's very self-directed, because I'm choosing which of these.
Yeah.
Because on a quick write, choose whichever one you want to write. This is what we want them to do. Choose.
Yeah.
We've got to bring choice to them, though, through that name and notice. And then self-regulation in the reflection and, I did this one, didn't work so well. In my next quick write, I'm going to do that same category. I'm going to sharpen that. I'm going to get that. And I might even edit that one that I did and make it sharper. Yeah. And there I am now in a revising type process.
Getting very explicit, aren't you? Like if we're going to talk about explicit teaching, this is the real explicit teaching, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it has all the elements of being explicit,
Yeah.
and students explicitly giving that a go.
Yeah. But it's all couched within the self-direction, self-motivation, regulation. It's all couched within that.
Yes.
It's not something being done to them.
No.
Yeah.
And all of this is couched in the fact that they are being the writer.
Yeah.
And what good writers do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because good writers read like a writer. Every writer would say that they draw on what they've read and how other writers have said these things. That influences how they become.
Just like musicians.
Writers.
Musicians listen to lots of different forms of music and that influences them. I love the way you've got reflection. It's not just share and reflection, it's celebration. I think that we could really add that in every time we talk about that, Sharon. Celebration, share, reflection, 3 things.
Yes.
Not just 1 or 2.
I like that. I really like that.
And the other one I'd like to add my 2 bobs worth is where you've got exploration. I think you could say exploration and collection.
Yes.
Could be the title.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right.
So
I pass.
Doesn't happen very often, folks.
No. Sadly.
So I think this really helps us to understand all the more what Frank Smith means by we learn from the company we keep. I can't, me as teacher and writer, I can't demonstrate anywhere near as well to my students what it means to craft great beginnings.
As you did with those books.
These books could.
Yep.
This,
so that's just
it's a wealth.
That's just a little illustration of another thing we can do with it. I mean, we can do beginnings and we can do all sorts of things in that same way.
This model, this little process, and once again, it's not lock, step, process, and it all has to happen in one day. I'm talking...
And adapt to your learners.
This may happen over 2 or 3 days and be repeated. The give it a go part may be repeated many times. This happens every episode. I lose my train of thought.
It's all right. You're thinking about a lot of things, Sharon.
I am always thinking about a lot of things.
But anyway, I like all the steps. I think that's a great process.
Yeah. And I know what I was going to say. So, yes, if this is a process that we can go exploring on this process. The process is pretty...
well, it works.
Clear. It works.
It works.
Because it's always giving entry points. And that's
a great tool.
Great
tool.
It is my tool for the day. Because,
okay.
Because you will be asking me shortly what tool have I used. And
what books?
This as a tool, this last week, working with the year 2 to 7 teachers and thinking about writing the writer's craft, this is exactly the process that we talked about and we're exploring.
Yep.
And the teachers, when we did the workshop on the art of teaching writing through literature, we talked about this as a process. So this is a process or tool that is so powerful, and I'd love to bring more because just this beginnings piece, I know lots of teachers have said to me, I just love that there are some categories. You've named for me some categories that I can now bring to my students.
Yes.
And so I have got more categories of things that we can explore in further podcasts, and we will have these. Some of these are going up onto the Teachific website.
Okay.
So there will be some. So this little process.
Is this one up there already, or do we need
No,
to
it's not up there yet.
Okay.
And you can see already, Phil, that I want to make some changes to my draft copy here. But Penny, the Year 4-5 teacher, would say when we did this lesson with her class, we began this process with the class, I just do have to tell you a fabulous story. I happened to take in 7 books I picked off from the school library shelf because I could have taken them from Penny's classroom library, but I collected them from the school library. I collected 7 books. We borrowed those out, just looked at the beginning sentence, did just what we've done today, and as I headed off out of the room with the 7 books, there were 7 children right beside me. And I said, oh, what do we want? They said each of them wanted to come with me to the library and they wanted to borrow the book, one of the books that I had just read the first line from. So there's the power of the beginning. The first sentence read of those books, and somebody wanted to read every one of those books. So it really showed. Penny just found that astonishing, as did I, that not only had the writing, they'd so engaged with the writing, but they saw the power of the beginning and how that can influence, your choice, your entry into a book. So that was a great piece, and this is a process and tool that Penny has continued to use now for a number of years. So it's great to know how well it works. We've seen big moves.
She must have some great writers in that class.
Astonishing writers.
Yep.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's my tool for the day. And as far as what books have I been using?
Yes.
Of course, I mentioned the books there, but the important thing about this for you is that you don't need these books to do this with your students. You just need some great literature that you can have that you can share that first, the first sentence with your students, and then that they can access some great literature to keep going with that. So, of course, I haven't mentioned in this that this is Year 3 up.
Oh, okay. Yep.
This kind of process. But having said that, I've used picture books. So I didn't really use picture books for younger children for this today. This process is fantastic for what I call a craft lesson on I Can Write a Book. So there's a podcast we'll do. So this process works for, for all year levels, but what we're crafting would change.
Yep. So the little ones that would be I Can Write a Book. Yep.
Yeah. Of course, we could do beginnings with them. There's no reason why we didn't, but I just didn't use the beginnings for young, for, say, year 1s today. But we can absolutely do that same thing with our younger ones with picture books. How does the writer start the book?
So there we have it, folks. A great lot of techniques for you to use in your classroom. And Reading Like a Writer, we'll have other sessions.
Yes, so that'll be a little series.
Like a Writer. Every now and then we'll have Reading Like a Writer, and that will be fantastic. So thank you, Sharon, today for your input. And thank you, everyone.
What's the answer to what's the response to that?
You can't respond to that.
And thank you for your output.
Very good. Please stay in touch with us. And if you try those techniques in your classroom, how about writing on our Facebook group? Just let us know how it's going.
That would be really fabulous. And I will make sure that we've got that Writer's Craft piece available.
Yes.
On Teach.
Or if you don't want to share it, just email us and let us know.
Yes.
Or on our contact page on Q Learning. Just write to us individually. That would be fantastic. My word for teacher today is in Arabic. Now here we go. Mu'anninam. And I'll leave that with you. In Arabic. That's
sounds beautiful.
Beautiful sound, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. To make sure you don't miss any literacy learning tips and insights, please subscribe to our show on your favourite podcast player. At Q Learning, our literacy specialists draw on over 30 years of teaching and international consulting experience to deliver world-class learning solutions. We equip, empower and support teachers to become their authentic selves. To find out about upcoming webinars and about how Q can help you and your school, visit qlearning.com.au. And you can get even more amazing teaching resources right now at teachific.com.au. Stay tuned.